Hey, welcome on in to Lunch with Claibs and Joe. It's the early Flag Day edition of the show today. I'm Joe Roderick, joined by Mike Claiborne, and we are powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganast St. Louis Acura, and sponsored by the HomeLoanExpert.com. Coming to you a little bit late today, Claibs. We've been doing this for 2.5 years now here on Claibs Online, but those technical difficulties still come around and bite us in the ass sometimes.
Yeah, and including a dog that now wants to get involved with the show. Anyway, things happen. It's the life we live these days. So
It is, but you know what? Hey, it beats having to drive, all the way back and forth and do spend the money to do that these days.
Especially driving these
yeah.
days. So you live in Illinois. So what's gas going for now?
509 most stations right now.
So I have a plug-in, but it also has gas. And I decided to get some gas on Saturday. And it was premium, $5.69.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, we're not going here, and I'm not going there. I'm just going to chill. So it worked out fine, but it's not going to get any better for the near future.
No, I need to. I have I can bike to the gym, but I can't take my race bike there. The road is too uneven and everything, so I'm not taking it there with those tiny thin tires. But I'm about to go dig up the old bike with the thick tires and start riding that around around town. But hey, in 100-degree weather, I mean, not only is that a great workout, I'm going to sweat off a whole lot of weight too.
Hydration, though, man, you got to stay hydrated.
Look at that. Hey, you see, you're all. Look at the size of this thing. This is one of the souvenir cups that you get at Busch Stadium this year. Look at the size of this baby that they have there.
You drink 3 of those, you should be all right. If you drink 3 of those worth of water, you should probably get to the 5th inning.
Yeah, they got those. I think they have them the Yachty. I think they have Yachty on the new ones right now. Let's start with the Cardinals. We have made it clear. You have done so on Twitter. I know a few people have brought it up to me that tomorrow is Flag Day, but we are not looking at the standings tomorrow to kind of figure out where the Cardinals are. We have pushed that back to July 4th this year due to the lockout and due to all of the different roster rules and regulations this season, correct?
That is correct. And, I'm thinking with the 4th, July 4th is on a Monday. We should probably unveil things on Tuesday, do our lunch with Claibs and Joe on Tuesday. I'll be in Atlanta, so we probably ought to do it then because on July 4th, everything is going on and maybe some people may not be able to tune in. We can do it. Yeah, we can do it then.
We could, we'll let people know what to think of the Cardinals. But this weekend was the first time that we got to see everything kind of come together with the offensive side. There's still a few pieces that they're waiting on with the pitching and a few things that are still being moved around and moved into place. But Tyler O'Neill's come back. Dylan Carlson's come back. We know that Nolan Gorman, Juan Yepes, Brendan Donovan are here to stay. So this weekend was kind of the first time this year that Ali Marmol had all of his offensive toys to play with and to kind of put around in the lineup. 3 days into that, how do you think he did, and what do you see kind of moving forward? What kind of changes he might make?
Well, you know what? His bench is longer. His team and lineup are longer than, it's been a long time where you've had all these guys who we've seen them produce in a manner that really justifies what the lineup looks like. I like the direction. There's 2 things. Gorman's going to play every day, okay? And really, Donovan should play every day. Now, how you move him around, well, we know Gorman's either going to be a DH or a second baseman. When you look at the splits with regard to Donovan, he hits lefties pretty good. So you got some different ways you're going to have to look at him. And I'm going to visit with Ali Marmol about that today with regard to juggling the lineup and getting the bats in. And one of the things that he said from day one, and John Mozeliak said it as well, you hit, you play. And they may sacrifice a little defense sometimes. But for me, Donovan has done a good job in virtually every position he's been put in. I don't think he's got a weak side to him. Now there may be positions he doesn't play as much, but I'm trying to think of a spot that he's been in where he hasn't come up with a solid professional play.
And you are seeing too, they said before Nolan Gorman came up, they said when he comes up here, he will be the everyday second baseman. And I think the team has kind of realized, okay, Brendan Donovan is better defensively at second base than Nolan Gorman is. And that's not a slight at Nolan Gorman. We've seen him make really good plays at second. But you saw this weekend for the first time, they had Nolan Gorman DH and they had Brendan Donovan start at second. Now, I think there might be a little deeper reasoning to that too, because you want to keep Donovan on the fields if you need to move him elsewhere instead of losing the DH if something happens there. But you're able to move him around pretty much everywhere, and he can play everywhere too. So that was something I was wondering if they would do at some point. And now you kind of have your left-handed DH and Gorman, your right-handed DH and Albert.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a good way to look at it. I think also here's another X factor. What do you do with Paul DeYoung? Okay, he's playing better. But as John Mozeliak said last week, we're going to leave him there until we think he's really ready. And, I always wonder about when you're in the minors, who are you facing? Are you hitting good pitching, good minor league pitching, or are you just hitting some guys that are trying to hold on? Or are you just seeing fastballs? Because I think we know by the time you get here in the big leagues, they have more than a fastball. And you have to be able to do something with it. That doesn't mean you have to hit a home run, but you have to be able to put it in play. And DeYoung's biggest problem was he struck out too much. I mean, he wasn't making contact, and you can't have it. I mean, this is a team that, doesn't strike out a lot since he's been out of the lineup. And they take some real competitive at bats. So that's something that they're going to have to take into account between now and the end of the month. And you look at a guy like Dickerson, what do you do with him? Edmundo Sosa, what do you do with him? Andrew Kisner, offensively, he's not giving you very much. His defense has been solid, but I think there's a lot of questions that have to be answered between certainly now and July 4th. Okay, so I guess we lost Joe, and we're going to try and reconnect.
He had earlier. I think right now Paul DeYoung might be your biggest trade chip going into the trade deadline to get some more pitching.
Well, here's a question about that. Why would a team give you a lot for a guy who's been playing better in the minors than he was in the big leagues?
I'm not saying a lot. I'm not saying you're going and trading the A's for with Frankie Montas. Is that the guy
Montas,
out there?
Yeah.
Montas. I'm talking just a reliever, just some back end of the bullpen type of help that you can get from somebody.
I would rather go with a legitimate starter, a legit starter, and slide some people back, because we don't know how long it's going to be before Matz comes back. Flaherty is just around the corner. And even with Flaherty, is he going to give you 7 innings? Is he going to give you 8 innings? We don't know. I'd rather have a frontline starter and move somebody back compared to going out. And I know we did it last year. You found Wade LeBlanc and Luis Garcia and TJ McFarland, all very good last year. Only one's left, and he hasn't been as good as he was last year. So, and the other thing you have to take into account is you're going to have to get more out of certain people. Helsley's got to give you 2 innings. Jordan Hicks has got to give you more innings. He's got to be your long guy. You got to make sure some other guys are more consistent. And I don't know who the closer is. Is it Gio? I don't know. I mean, he hasn't been solid. I mean, he walks too many people right now. Helsley was pretty good at not walking people early. He's kind of had a little bump in the road. Oviedo can't help you right now. I mean, you think about the home run he served up yesterday.
There we go.
So I'm just talking to myself here.
Yeah, I don't know who you were talking to. I don't know what that how that went over. But when is the we were talking trade deadline. Have they said when? Have they given us an actual date for that trade deadline yet?
No. I mean, I'm sure it's been posted, but I haven't paid much attention to it. I think you have to do 2 deals. You have to do one before the deadline. I mean, like in the month of July, I think. And then you got to have one more piece you make right before the deadline.
Yeah.
Because, when you look at how many teams that are out there that have already surrendered, and you look at our division, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Chicago, they're done. You look at the East, Washington's done. You look at the American League. What are they? American League Central has one team over 500. I
Mhm.
mean, there's going to be some picking taking place over there. So there's going to be plenty of dance partners available this year, is what I'm saying. So I think you probably ought to move up and try and get something now to work into what you're trying to do. And I also think you need to look later for another spare part to touch on what you mentioned. Maybe there's bullpen help. I think I'd like to get another legitimate starter though, because
The
even with
yeah.
Palante, who was trained to be a starter, can he give you more than five? Can he give you more than 75 pitches? Uh, and you have to take into account. And John Mozeliak said this last week. You don't win. You don't get in the playoffs in April or May. Not even June. But you have to start to build up to that and assess. And that's why the whole Flag Day concept came into play. You want to assess what you have and know what you need, and also assess what you're willing to part with. And the Cardinals have some guys that maybe are on their last leg here.
Want to get your thoughts before we move on from the Cardinals about what we saw transpire this weekend with Harrison Bader. He was removed from the game on Saturday, and Ali Marmol came right out and said afterwards it was due to lack of hustle. He didn't live up to the expectations the team set forth for him. Said that was his punishment. He'll be back in tomorrow. Harrison Bader stepped up on Sunday. He talked to the media and answered about it too. Just your assessment of that whole situation, and can you remember the last time we saw something like that it was all thrown out? I mean, behind closed doors is one thing, but it was made very public.
Well, first of all, Ali never said it was a lack of hustle. He just said it was some unprofessional things that he wasn't happy with. And there was something else that happened leading up to that. And really what it came down to was on the fly ball, Harrison not only didn't run it out, he made a right turn before the ball was caught and then walked back to the dugout. And he was frustrated. Okay. Selfish move on his part, frustrating move, but it's something that you can't let people get away with. I mean, let's face it, Yachty's the only guy that doesn't run out balls, all right? And we respect the fact maybe he's banged up a little bit, and he's got a lot of time behind the plate. But in Bader's case, that's not his MO. And he heard from Ali, he heard from a couple of other people about it. And to his credit, and I don't know if you heard the actual text of his message, it was the best answer I've ever heard of a guy who obviously knew he made a mistake.
Yep.
And he owned it. And he owned it in a professional manner. And it was the funniest thing about that whole situation. Before Bader came in a clubhouse, he and I and Ali were walking down the corridor and we were talking about something, and they were laughing about something else. So, I mean, they were good. They had moved on from it. And I thought it was important for Bader to make light of the point that he wanted to make sure after the game that he was in his office to visit with him and make sure they were on the same page. I mean, some guys would just go home and brood or whatever. Harrison is a professional. I was very happy with how he handled it. And I would have doubt that we see it again. It kind of reminds me when Andrew Jones was taken out of a game by Bobby Cox many, many years ago. Andrew Jones, by the way, should be in the Hall of Fame. And I don't think Andrew Jones jaked another ball the rest of his career because players have pride in how they're perceived. And it was just one of those moments. And I always look at Tommy Pham, and we had a chance to watch him a lot this weekend. He's a guy that runs out every ball. I don't care if it's the first baseman coming up with it. He's the one guy that runs on and off the field. He does the little things, and he was taught the Cardinal way. And Harrison Bader knows that as well. So, he learned from it. You move on. It's a long season, man. He ain't the only guy that's going to have a day like that.
Yeah. By the way, you mentioned Andrew Jones. We're a few weeks away from the MLB draft. His son Drew Jones set to go what, number 1 overall in that
Yeah,
draft, I
he
think?
was highly touted early on. Highly
Yeah.
touted.
Yeah.
But I was talking to somebody who scouts a couple of weeks ago about that. And the question now is, do you get the college guy who may be a little further along, or do you take the high school kid who looks good in the travel leagues and all the other specialty camps that they have, but really doesn't know how to play baseball? But he's got the athletic skill that intrigues you. And there are a lot of teams wrestling with that now, because I think we're seeing it. If you look at all those so-called high school phenoms who were drafted 2-3 years ago, and teams thought they could bring them up and play them, and they can't do anything. The kid over in Kansas City, he's struggling. He's been struggling all season long. He was
Bobby
the first
Witt.
pick. Yeah. So, and there's some other guys that are having a problem that may have been called up too soon because they haven't learned how to play the game that's going to keep them in the major leagues. And what I mean by that is having a hitting approach that's going to keep you in a lineup on a regular basis, making sure defensively you throw to the right base, you do the right things, and just little things like running the bases, learn how to cut a base. I mean, there's so many little things that you see guys when they come up and you say, nah, that's not how you should do it. Or when you see pitchers who burn 90 pitches in 4 innings and don't know how to pitch out of trouble, nah, he's probably not ready. But because of the draft selection and because of the money you're paying and because of the fact that fans can now track these players as well as the scouts can, they get rushed. And I think some of the teams have learned, well, maybe he's not ready. And I'll give you a good example locally. There's some people that don't think Matthew Liberatore is ready. And we're going to find out because he's pitching tomorrow.
Yeah, he is.
So you got to look at those sort of things on why guys don't develop and why guys are you have to be very careful of when it comes to the draft.
Yeah, but I'm glad you mentioned Liberatore getting the start tomorrow. I assume he's going to be the extra man on the roster, and that's because it's a doubleheader. I noticed both the Cardinals and the Pirates are off on Thursday, but they have the doubleheader on Tuesday. So is this a case that you know these players well enough? Would they rather play 2 games on Tuesday and be completely off on Thursday rather than having to be at the ballpark for 12 hours on one day?
Yeah, because the Thursday game might as well be a doubleheader, and here's why. You're going to play. Then you're going to get on a plane. You're going to lose an hour because you're going to Boston to play for the weekend. So you'd rather play the one game. Rather not play, sleep in your own bed, recover, compared to dealing with a game and then getting on a plane. So let's say Cardinals play, let's say they want to play for lack of a 12-15 game. So you play 12-15. You don't leave here until 5. You get into Boston, it's 8 o'clock. Okay, so now that kind of changes your whole dynamic compared to leaving at 3, getting in at 5, and having a reasonable evening. And I know it's only 3-hour difference, somewhere in that vicinity, but it's just a whole mindset where you're not physically taxed.
Yeah, I figured that answer would be around that. I'm glad you explained it out that way for that. But yeah, game tonight, then doubleheader tomorrow, then a game on Wednesday with the Pirates in town for 4 games. And then, as you mentioned, heading out to Boston, but you're not heading out to Boston. You're you are boycotting heading out to Boston. No, but we will talk a little bit about Boston in just a bit because it's the NBA Finals. They have Game 5 tonight. Yeah,
the U.S. Open is there this week.
That's right.
It's in Brookline.
You sure you're not going out there for any of that?
That's not a chance in hell. No.
We'll talk more about that when we come back here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura, and sponsored by the Home Loan Experts.
My name is Jeremy Seabury. I am one of the owners of Pawford K9.
Marcus Galmore, co-owner of Pawford K9.
What makes us different from other dog companies is there is no breed left behind. We stand by that 120%. We specialize in aggressive behavior modification. We don't turn away. We bring them in for a free evaluation to see if we can help the dog.
Here at Pawford K9, we focus on the owners, educating the owners.
How do I get this dog to give me the behaviors that I'm asking for without the treats? So that's when me and Marcus come in. We train the dog, so when you take the dog home, you don't need the treats. The dog is doing it because you're asking it to.
After each training package, we go through a series of lessons. We keep going until the owner gets it.
We make sure that they go over the beatings with their dog, and that dog is listening before they leave here. But also, we follow up when they get home. Is your pup listening to you here? If it's not, we one phone call away. We'll make a trip. We got the Paw Pick Mobile, where we go out to their homes and make sure their dog is okay.
Hey, back here, lunch with Claibs and Joe. I want to tell you about Munganess Alton Toyota, another sponsor here on Claibs Online. Hey, Toyota, they are working really hard to try to make every one of their cars a hybrid car, and you can find a few of those right there on the lot at Munganess Alton Toyota. Claibs was just telling you about how he went and filled up the other day on his hybrid car. You get a lot of miles to the gallon when you're driving one of those hybrids. I know I drove one of the ones at Munganess last year. You're filling that up there. You're getting 500 plus miles till empty on that, and that's going to take you quite a long ways and keep spreading you out between visits to the pump right now, especially with those prices being over $5 a gallon. But they are working hard at Toyota to make sure all those cars are hybrid. I think it's by 23, 24 is what they're saying.
I think 24.
Yeah.
But it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
We're halfway through 22, so it's coming, and not a day too soon.
Yeah, head on over to altontoyota.com and see what kind of inventory they have, or go visit them at 850 Homer Adams Parkway in Alton, Illinois.
I'm with the home loan experts, James and Jason Gillespie. They're a father and son combination. James, you guys not only do great work with mortgages, you also do great work in the community.
That is correct, Mike. We have several programs for the community where we're out helping the community as well. Isn't that right, Jason?
You're right, Dad. We are doing a ton of work in the community, but we're also doing a ton of work helping home buyers refi and buy homes. All you have to do is give us a call.
It's Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on ClaibsOnline.com, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura, and sponsored by the HomeLoanExpert.com. Claibs, we starting with NBA. It's Game 5 tonight out in San Francisco. The Warriors hosting the Celtics, tied at 2 games apiece. What have you seen so far in this series that you like, and who do you have tonight?
Well, I like Golden State from day one. I just think their experience in this situation is a little bit better than what Boston can offer. I think both teams have played some really good defense, and both teams have had a guy step up. Both teams are waiting on their other guys to step up. But I like Golden State because of their experience. Winning your first one as a player, and certainly as a coach, a rookie coach, it's really hard to do. And I think that now that Golden State's seen Boston defensively enough, they've figured out a few things. Now, they still have to get Klay Thompson going. He was better in Game 4 than what we've seen. Draymond is not going to score a lot, but Draymond was very active defensively. He kept the ball moving, and maybe he's found his lane on what he can do. I think the key is if you can get Jordan Poole to get it going, and he's shown the ability that he can turn out a game. I think that's going to be a little too much for Boston to handle because Boston doesn't have as many options. They're good defensively, especially around the rim, but they're going to need a little bit more firepower.
Yeah, Draymond Green, 2 points in each of the games in Boston in Game 3 and Game 4. But like you mentioned, still contributed a bit, had 9 rebounds, 8 assists in the last game. So he's not just standing out there filling up the stat sheet with zeros. He's at least contributing some. But it does seem like he's getting a lot of the attention in these few games. Maybe it's because he's so unlikable as an NBA player. It's easy to make Draymond Green the villain. Mm-hmm. The Boston fans got behind that, and then it kind of made its way into those post-game press conferences too, and you got players to comment on it.
Well, Draymond is a guy that, it's easy not to like him, but you know what? It's hard not to respect him because he plays hard. He gets in your head. He does all the little things that most people won't take on, and he has no problem talking to the media. He's got a career in front of him. He's going to be with TNT at some point down the road. He does a podcast, so he's very media savvy. and he knows how to stir the pot, and he's been pretty good at it, and he relishes the opportunity to get that attention.
He's the modern day Dennis Rodman without all the other theatrics, I think, behind it.
Good call.
Yeah. I don't. There's never going to be another Dennis Rodman, but I mean, this is as close to modern day, I think, as you can get.
Yeah, Dennis was probably a little bigger and slightly more athletic, but Draymond can guard anybody. I mean, I think I told you at the beginning of the season, when I saw them play a couple of times early, I thought he was the MVP of the league, and then he got hurt because he can do so many things for you. And he's been there. I think that's something we have to take into account. Draymond has won 3 times. And that's something that a lot of guys, well, let's put it this way. There's nobody in Boston that can say that, or even won 1. So I really feel like that's where his experience comes into play, because he can do what the situation calls for.
The NBA Finals, that is game number 5 tonight.
By the way,
yeah.
How do you have a finals and not have a game on the weekend?
It's the scheduling for these have been driving me crazy. You never know when the games are with all the dates they have between them, because after this game, they don't play again until Thursday this week, right? Is that when the next game is in this series?
It used to be Thursday, Sunday. Let me see, what was it? Was it Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday is what it used to be. And I don't know what's going on with it, but I don't like the setup. And here's a problem you also have. You got the NHL on ESPN also. So, but I'm saying to myself, you mean tell me you didn't find, and you couldn't do it this weekend because you had the NHL on Saturday night and you had Major League Baseball on Sunday night. And that's probably why they got bumped.
Yeah, they so it's Thursday. The series so far has gone Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday.
It used to be Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. That's what it used to be.
Yeah, it was every other day. And it got over with before this series. Game 7 would be June 19th this week or next week if you go that long. So it would be 17 days to play 7 games.
Yeah. In fairness, though, I don't think the players object because they get extra rest. The problem is you got to go from one coast to the other. That can be a pain. But the way these planes are tricked out now, I mean, it's not as cumbersome as it used to be.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not, maybe we're about a year or 2 away from Memphis, Chicago in the finals, and then there'll be a nice little short trip between the 2 cities for that.
Memphis, Chicago, huh?
Maybe 2 years away. I don't know. Chicago's got a lot to figure out, but I mean, Memphis is a little closer.
I thought Memphis made some significant strides this year, and let's face it, Golden State doesn't have many more years of this current combination to go. But with that said, they've got younger guys that are making an impact, so they may be around for a while.
Yeah. NHL, as you mentioned, NHL Finals, they're also starting. It's the Lightning and the Avalanche, and ESPN, covering that. So those games are going to be on ABC, and I would imagine a lot more coverage. I with those 2 markets, Tampa and Colorado, I'm sure they would have rather had New York in there for their first year being with ESPN. They would have liked to bump up those ratings a little bit, but I'm interested to see how different these are going to be from when they were on NBC. Aside from that, Colorado has been sitting and waiting for a very long time, and the Lightning going for a three-peat, I guess would the Patriots have been the last team to three-peat in a professional sport?
You may be on. We know it's not in baseball.
No.
So you may be on to something. I'm going to back up on something you said with regard to Colorado and Tampa. I don't think if the Rangers are in the finals, it'd make a difference. And here's why. The Yankees and the Mets are playing really, really well. Okay. So the Rangers drop down significantly when it comes to TV entrance. Tampa and Denver are 2 of the largest markets. Those are pretty good TV markets in their own right. So I think that the NHL will be just fine, just because, hell, they're all bigger than St. Louis. And so I think that they'll do really well, because you have to remember, They don't have Colorado Rockies on. They don't get much of a push, and the Rays don't get a push at all. So everybody's going to be focused on those two teams.
I know Colorado, I know that's big for hockey, but isn't there throughout the regular season, aren't there issues with getting their games locally? Doesn't Kroenke have some issue with playing those and with the Nuggets and the Avalanche? But I do take it back though, because Tampa, having won the last 2 years, the fans there are all in on that being a huge hockey town right now and cannot wait to see if their team can win 3 in a row. So, I mean, those ratings in Tampa should just be enormous.
I agree with you. It's going to be a fun series. Obviously, I'm pulling for Tampa because of Pat Maroon and John Cooper, and just the fact that they've been able to find themselves back in this thing, man. This is the hardest trophy there is to win, and they're going after a third one with basically the same team. Now, they made some subtle adjustments. Corey Perry came on and some other guys, but the nucleus and their best player isn't even available to them. Now, I don't know if he's going to be available in the finals, but bottom line is this has been an epic run, man. We just don't see in professional sports anymore. Mm-hmm. The salary cap has had a lot to do with it. Free agencies had a lot to do with it. But for them to be able to amass enough grit to be able to go in and win in the manner that they have, I just tip my cap to them. And I'm not taking anything away from Colorado, but the difference is Tampa has a goalie. Colorado doesn't. Okay? I mean, they can skate circles around anybody, but if they don't have a goaltender who can make some saves, I don't think this thing could go very long.
Yeah, that series again starts on Wednesday. We wrap up today. Last week we talked a little bit about the LIV, the Live Tour. They had their first event this weekend, but prior to them teeing off on Thursday, the PGA announced all of those guys were ineligible, or they were suspending all of the guys that were playing in that. That doesn't carry over to this weekend with the U.S. Open. There are a lot of guys from that LIV Tour that are going to be in the Boston area for the U.S. Open this weekend. It's kind of it's a bit confusing when you realize who kind of puts on some of these tournaments, some of these majors each and every as the year goes on. I know we didn't really have a way to watch any of the Live Tour this weekend. Did you follow along with it? Did you watch any?
I was trying to keep track of it. As we were talking about this last week, the tour doesn't have any all-striking names to me, okay? These are all guys we've seen before. These are all guys who've had reasonable success on the PGA Tour, but these are all guys we never stopped to make sure we watch them play, okay? I mean, Dustin Johnson is the most recognizable guy. Phil obviously was a very good player at one point, but I'm not sure if I'm going to stop my afternoon when I can watch another tour. Now, DeChambeau is an interesting guy because everyone's intrigued by his power. But I'm not sure if these guys move the needle. I think we're more enamored with the money that they're making compared to their skill. And
where that money's coming from.
Yeah. And you know what? And we talked about this the other day about human rights issues. We got our own, this country has a set of human rights issues as well. It's done maybe differently, but I mean, for us to feel like the Saudis are the only dastardly people in the world, it's comical. And I look at the PGA and you think about all the things the PGA turned the other way on, whether it was how the Masters dealt with people of color or how the PGA dealt with people of color for so many years. And for them to come out feeling like they're the white knights here, I think it's kind of amusing as well. Now, they've made significant strides. I'm not going to take that away from them. They've done some really good things to make the game more inclusive, and it is a global game. But for them to stand on this high horse and feel like we're better than them because our money is legit, well, I wouldn't go that far. I think that there's some issues that you can raise up the hood. When you think about the private clubs and all the things that have gone on to keep people down, they don't necessarily have a clean closet themselves. But I think the Saudis are a convenient group of people to pick on, and I'm not trying to defend them because they definitely messed up. So the Chinese, so the Russians. I mean, everybody has their issues, but I think in this case, to solely pin it on that, I think is probably it may be more crying in your beard than anything else, because you don't have that kind of money. Or do you have that kind of money? You just elected not to share it with the players.
Yeah. That's that might be a better issue. Hey, that's going to wrap up our show for today, though. Claibs, Pittsburgh Pirates are in town. You
got to sweep them.
You have
that's
what I said about the Reds too. I mean, this should be.
Well, I said we had to lose
a 7-game win streak right now.
I said we could afford to lose one game during the homestand. So we lost yesterday, so they got to sweep Pittsburgh.
What do you have for set for the pregame show?
It's a very good question. I'll probably talk to somebody from Pittsburgh. I'm anxious to see, because they were playing reasonably well. They went out to LA and handled the Dodgers, so they're doing something right. So I'm anxious to talk to them about that. Tomorrow is the 247th birthday for the United States Army, so we're going to visit with somebody about that. And you know me, man, I just kind of roam and find the best story available at the time.
Yep, and then we on Wednesday we're recording the next episode or two of the Joe West podcast. New episode out today. It's just you and Joe sitting down shooting the shit for about 45 minutes or so. It's it's good stuff. I enjoyed. I didn't get to listen to it live, but I went back and listened to it, and I'll tell you this: umpires and the way they travel and pack never occurred to me. How they have to live their lives for 162 games. I was pretty enamored by you guys talking about that, and it's one of those things that you don't really understand until you guys got into it.
Well, you know, here's the thing, and we could have gone in a little bit more detail. They all have a trunk, okay? And they travel with the trunk. The clubhouse guys make sure the trunk gets to the next city, and when it gets to the next city, it goes right to the ballpark. You have an umpire attendant that handles all their stuff, the laundry, everything else, make sure they have food. And it's a challenging position, but you're right about the fact that their situation, they don't have a home game.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, every city is, you know, you're lucky if you live in a city where you might be able to sleep in your own bed. But the way they travel, and remember, they're flying commercial. And at last check, if I'm not mistaken, I know there used to be a rule where you had to be on the first commercial flight out the next day. Some guys might try and get out that night. You know, they have to do their own travel. I mean, they work with MLB, but it's a very challenging role that they have. And we're getting into it a little bit more with Joe the next time we visit with him.
Yeah, 5460, the Joe West podcast, available now on the Podcast Heat Network. Bob Ramsey and I will be back later today. We will have the lineups for tonight's game as part of Daily Cards Live. And then I believe Rammer and Rocchio are going to do another two-man game before Game 5 tonight. So lots of stuff available for you up on Claibs Online right now. So, and then, hey, you know what's getting the most hits right now on our site is my interview with AEW wrestler Eddie Kingston. That's what's getting the most hits on the website right now. AEW in town on Wednesday at Chaffetz, and Claibs, I think they might have a guy or two coming by the booth to just say hello. Wait till you see I mean, the guy that they have thrown out the first pitch.
We met with. I had
Mark Henry. Yeah, you got to meet Mark Henry.
Yeah.
Wait till you see the size of the guy they got thrown out the first pitch tomorrow night.
I'm looking forward to it.
He's a big boy too.
Big enough to work, huh?
It's, you know what, he probably won't be wearing a shirt because I don't think they fit on him. That's about how big this guy is, and we're not talking fat. We're talking just it's muscles, places that you never knew they existed. Yeah,
I got you. Well, I'm looking forward to meeting him.
Yeah, we will talk to you at many other times later this week here on Claibs Online. Lots of content always available wherever you find your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search for Claibs Online. For Mike Claiborne, I'm Joe Roderick. This has been another edition of Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura, and also sponsored by the HomeLoanExpert.com.
At St. Louis Acura, new inventory is arriving daily, both new and pre-owned. Our buying team adds a higher level of personalized service that others can't match. We sell over 100 pre-owned vehicles monthly, and many of these are matched by our buying teams in Missouri and Illinois. As new Acura production ramps up, be one of the lucky ones to try the newest Type S models now available. Performance has never been so stylish and comfortable. St. Louis Acura remains committed to becoming better than ever for you.